Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today we're looking at the Kershaw Skyline. This one happens to be Damascus, but we're going to go over a little bit of all of them. Alright guys, so here she is. Let's get a look at our Kershaw Skyline Damascus. As with all the other Skylines, we have one G10 handle, and I say all the others, there are some with carbon fiber and other materials, but we have a G10 handle that is textured lightly. It's not super textured like some other knives where you get that deal where it tears up your pocket and whatnot, but it is textured enough to get a good hold on it. And we have two body screws, pivot screw, basic construction here with a back spacer, and as we move over here, the body screws are captured. Now they're not capped like Cold Steel does with some of their G10 knives, but they are captured, and you know, they look okay. Do have a small lanyard hole. I don't know if you could quite get 550 stuff through that, but you might. As we roll around up at the top, you can see one of the oddities with this knife, which is actually pretty cool. It makes it lighter. We have a liner on this side, which gives us our liner lock and a little more stability. And this scale is just G10. Open it up, there's our lockup. Lockup's pretty solid. There's no play in this knife whatsoever, which lockup brings us to another interesting point. What most people would call thumb studs are not thumb studs. These are your blade stops. And they stop against the G10 on this side and against the G10 in stainless on this side. And they are pretty much useless as regular thumb studs. And you can kind of get it out there, but there we go. But it's not something you're going to want to do regularly. This thing is meant to be deployed with the flipper. And let's just get a good look at this thing. It is well designed and well done. And yeah, I know Kershaw has had a lot of time. This thing has been in production for quite some time. They've had a lot of time to really get it good. And they have. Everything meets up well. Now the blade is contoured to meet with the handles. Our blade is swedged up here real nicely. It makes a really nice, not very tall package at just over an inch. And not a lot of space wasted down here either. Makes for a really compact package, and you get a blade length at just over 3 inches. So I'd say this is about as compact as you're going to get and have a medium heavy duty knife. More on the medium side. And one of my complaints with the Skyline series is the pocket clip. It's butter bar, some people call it, and whatnot. It's not very deep, and whenever you turn it around for tip up carry, it's not very deep at all, and you end up with this little point here kind of sticking out. And for whatever reason, that tends to get caught on things, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. Anyhow, let's flick this guy out. And the flicking mechanism is something we should talk about before we get to the blade. This is not a knife that you really light switch. It doesn't have a strong enough detent for that. I suppose you can make it stronger, you can get in there and bend some things around, but in its stock form, it doesn't have that. This is a knife where to get it to actuate properly, you've got to put some pressure down on that and then pull it down. If you do that, it's going to actuate 99% of the time and be awesome. So anyhow, with the blade out, on this particular model, we have a Damascus blade. And from what I understand, this is from Alabama Damascus, and it is a very good Damascus blade. And Damascus leads into some more talking and if you want to stick around and find out more about it and its application for everyday carry, we'll talk about that back out at the desk. I would suggest you do that if you're considering a Damascus blade for everyday carry. But as you can see, it is a very, very pretty blade. Well done Damascus, well etched, and takes a pretty darn good edge. And it is hollow ground, about 3/4 of the way up, with a blade stock thickness of about 0.09. So it's a pretty thin blade, and the 3/4 up hollow grind doesn't really detract from its ability to slice. It's a darn good little slicer. maybe here we'll be able to see our swedges a little better. But got some really nice swedges cut in. Start here and go way, way back on both sides of the blade, and they just look really nice. Kershaw did a really good job with that. And then we get to weight, and that is one of the all-star reasons for the Skyline. 2.55 ounces, and you get what I would call a medium-duty EDC knife. It's plenty tough enough to get through just about anything you might do, and the ergonomics on it are very simple but very effective. You have your finger choil here with your guard from your flipper. Get your index finger in there, and the rest of your hand fits around it very nicely. You don't have any jimping up here, but that's okay. You're locked in good and tight with that finger choil and the flipper around here. It locks you in nice and tight, and it really doesn't matter how you get a hold of the thing. It is really just one of those knives that is really, really well designed. When it comes to that, keeps you a nice compact design, yet lets you get a hold of it just about any way you might need to and not feel like the knife is getting you anywhere. One thing to note as we look through the back of it, it is partial flow through, and it is also pretty thin. It's 0.39 for handle thickness. That's one other thing that not having that liner on the other side gives us. But it's a good stable knife. Not much flex, no blade play. You know, guys, the Skyline, whenever you can get one of these things starting at $40 with the 14C28N, it's just a really good buy. Now be aware, whenever you buy one, it's not going to automatically flip. It's going to take some work, some loosening up, or some taking it apart and polishing up the bushings. You know, whenever this one first arrived, it did not flip near as well as it does, and that's partially due to the Damascus, and partially due to it just needing to be used some or polished some. I did both, and you know, as you can see, it flips really nicely now. Well, there she was, guys, the Kershaw Skyline Damascus. And you know, what we went over covers just about all of them. There are a couple of caveats for the Damascus model though. Damascus steel is an interesting pattern welded steel, and there's arguments over what it should be called and what it shouldn't be called, but we're just going to use the word Damascus or pattern welded here. And this is full pattern welded steel. It's not got a piece of VG10 or 1075 or anything else sandwiched in between. So it's a slab of Damascus at probably somewhere around 58 or 59 Rockwell. And that makes for a good blade, but there are some things to understand about Damascus and its use as an EDC knife. Most Damascus does not maintain a fine cutting edge like some of the other steels that we're used to. You know, the S30Vs, the crucible particle metal steels, the carpenter steels, and various other things. So if you're looking to use a Damascus blade for everyday carry, and it's full Damascus, not a cladded Damascus, many times you'll see Damascus with a piece of Damascus on either side of a piece of EG10 or something. And those will hold a fine edge. That's what they're designed to do. The Damascus itself, if it's 100% through and through Damascus, doesn't hold that fine edge very well. Now it stays sharp for a very, very long time, but it over time gets a toothy edge. So that's kind of what I wanted to hit on. If you're looking for a blade that holds that fine edge, Damascus probably isn't the steel for you. However, if you're looking for a blade to kind of dress up with, Damascus is pretty much always the right choice. So take that into consideration whenever you're looking at the different models of the Skyline or any other knife that's offered in a Damascus steel. Find out what the blade material actually is, whether it's clad, whether it's 100% Damascus or pattern welded or Damascus or Damascus steel. There's lots of different names out there for it, but the basis is it's a pattern welded steel. And if it's a clad steel, it'll probably hold that fine edge for a long time. If not, it's probably going to get toothy on you relatively quickly. So I just wanted to make that clear. Other than that, the Skyline is a very nifty little knife, and it's been one of the mainstays in people's EDC rotations for a very long time, and for good reason. Very light, it's simple, it's what a lot of people would say an EDC knife should be. Nothing fancy here. No reference to nothing fancy. It is just a simple knife that does its job extremely well. If I were to get one for everyday carry, I would probably look at one of the 14C28N blade material models, or one of the other ones that has passed through over time. We've seen them in S30V and various other steels. But the 14C28N, some pretty good stuff, and anything up from there, of course, gets a little better. Anyhow, guys, Kershaw Skyline, it's a classic, and it's a very good knife. And I really appreciate you guys stopping by and hanging out with me for a few minutes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.